Good morning and welcome to, okay, we're not there yet? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay, sounds good. Find my notes.
I'm gonna give you the cue.
Okay.
Go. You're up.
I'm up? Okay, well, welcome to State and Local Government. My name is Ann Matlack. I'm the House Chair of this committee. We are here this morning to work on 3 bills in public hearings and 1 bill in a work session. I will quickly find my notes for explaining why we are here. We are the State and Local Government Committee. We are meeting via Zoom. This is all new to us, so we ask for your patience as we work through this process. If you are here to testify, you will be in our waiting room and you will be called up when it's your turn to testify. You can hear us on the State House audio, or you can watch us on YouTube. And even after the fact, you may watch us on YouTube. So I think we'll get going. I will ask folks around the table to introduce themselves. Let me find my list, I forgot. So I will go by way of the folks that I see on my screen right now, if you don't mind. So if you could introduce yourself to us and tell us where you're from, I'd appreciate it. Senator Rosen.
Oh, thank you. Good morning. I am Senator Kimberly Rosen and Senate District 8. My district starts in Castine and then it goes 2 hours up the road to Lincoln. I live in Bucksport.
Wonderful. Representative Head.
My name is Frances Head. I live in Bethel, Maine. I represent District 117.
Good morning. Representative Copeland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Lynn Copeland. I represent House District 14, which is downtown and coastal Saco.
Thank you. Representative Downs.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Kathy Downs. I represent District 130, which is Bucksport and Orrington. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Representative Toole.
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Representative Will Toole. I represent the Machias area, plus Lubec and Eastport, and I'm quite thankfully glad to be headed home after 2 weeks down here this after committee today. So
I hope the road stays clear for you, sir.
Yes, I will have to defray my Route 9 report for Senator Claxton until next week.
Okay, good. Thank you. Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Mark Bryan. I represent House District 24, by the town of Wyndham. Welcome all.
Thank you. Representative Reisman, welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to be back. I don't know if it's right.
Okay, your signal is not very strong this morning. And Representative Greenwood.
Good morning and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Randy Greenwood. I represent House District 82, which are the towns of Litchfield, Monmouth, and my hometown of Wales in both Androscoggin and Kennebec counties.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here. Let me see. Who are we? 1065. We are. I put everything in order and then I shuffled. So we are hearing 3 bills this morning. We will start with Representative Pickett's bill. I believe that is the first up on our agenda. That is LD 1065, an act to clarify the qualifications and oversight of sheriffs. Is Representative Pickett here? I'm sorry, Representative Toole?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we forgot with all of that to introduce staff.
We did, my apologies. We also have with us today, as we always generally do, Cheryl McGowan is our clerk and Lynn Caswell is our legal analyst. Thank you. Cheryl, is Representative Pickett here?
She is not.
He.
Oh,
He.
I gotta. Oh, sorry, he is not.
He is not.
He is
Let
not.
me see. You had a list up.
Yeah, I have Rebecca Graham and Sheriff Troy Morton here.
Right, okay. Do we, let me see. We don't have Representative Pickett. Maybe we'll wait a little bit for Representative Pickett. Do we want to do another bill first or wait for him?
I would do another bill first, and I will try to track him down.
Thank you very much. So let's move to 1274. This is Representative Hepler's bill.
And she is, or he is, she is here.
She is. She is here. Wonderful.
She is here.
Let's see. And Representative Hepler's bill is 1274. Welcome, Representative Hepler.
Good morning. Well, it's nice to see other folks, Senator Rosen, who I have on another committee, and Lynn Caswell, who was just here. There she is, who is also our analyst on marine resources. So good morning, Representative Matlack, members of the state and local committee. My name is Allison Hepler, and I represent the towns of Arousic, Georgetown, Phippsburg, Woolwich, which is where I live, Dresden, and a small part of Richmond. And I'm here today to present LD 1274, an act regarding 2021 municipal elections and town meetings. I'm grateful, first I want to say I'm grateful to the Maine Municipal Association for its help in drafting this bill. So as a Woolwich Select person, I understand firsthand the impact of COVID-19 on our municipalities. Like many towns with a town meeting form of government, our ability to keep things running was immediately and dramatically affected by the restrictions on public gatherings last year. How could we run our municipal elections? If we could not hold a town meeting before the end of our fiscal year, which is where townspeople determine what our budget is, would we be able to pay our bills? Since Woolwich is a town that has not accepted secret ballot voting on its warrant, could we hold our town meetings using this method? How could we hold a public hearing, which is required prior to a vote on an ordinance change? Thanks to legislation that the 129th legislature passed on the day we adjourned on March 17th, 2020, we were able to continue using a variety of methods. That law expired on January 15th, 2021. Speaking for myself, I was 100% convinced that we would be past all of this by now. But that's clearly not the case. And so this bill basically does two things. Rebecca Graham will speak with more detail. There's a lot of things that this bill would do, but basically does four things. It provides municipalities the same accommodations regarding municipal elections and town meetings that we were afforded this past year, and that actually worked pretty well. It's retroactive to January 15th, 2021, and it expires, unlike other bills that we have before us, expires on January 15th, 2022. And because of the pandemic, it has an emergency resolve in order to enact upon passage. For all of the towns I represent, last year was incredibly tricky to navigate, but each one of the towns I represent adapted swiftly, creatively, and equitably to meet these challenges. And the ability to continue to respond to residents as needed is crucial this year. Thanks for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Hepler. Do we have any questions for Representative Hepler? There being none, I know that my town had issues with how to equitably meet. There is one, the opportunity to meet is one thing, but if you are unable to, if you don't have real good access to broadband, if you don't have the ability to hold meetings outside where a large number of people can be there, it was difficult for most municipalities, especially those that have town meetings, unlike others that have town and city councils where just a certain number of people met. So I appreciate you bringing this forward, especially the retroactive piece that will allow municipalities to have peace of mind knowing that what they've been doing and will be doing going forward is acceptable. There being no other questions for Representative Hepler, Representative Greenwood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry I was a little late on the draw there. My question is for the good Representative Hepler. Just as a question, would it be possible, or what would your thoughts be if the governor was to deem municipal elections as essential Would this be necessary?
Rebecca Graham is on from MMA, who has far more experience with that. I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, I'll defer that question to
Okay.
Ms. Graham from MMA.
Thank you. There being no further questions, I understand we have a couple of people here to speak with us, including Ms. Graham. Is she here? Is she available to speak with us? Along with Sue Look of Raymond and Victoria Wallach of Maine School Management. Let me see. Do we have? There you are, Ms. Graham. Good morning, Ms. Graham. Welcome back to State and Local Government. If you could introduce yourself and then give us your report, that'd be appreciated. You're on mute, ma'am. There you go.
Famous saying for 2021.
Yes.
Morning, Representative Matlack, Senator Rosen, and distinguished members of the State and Local Government Committee. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I'm here providing testimony in support of the bill that MMA was able to submit as a result of Representative Hepler's efforts. We thank her very much for that. To answer Representative Greenwood's question, yes, this provides a large degree of flexibility so that communities of all capacity can carry out those elections in a safe way to protect both the residents as well as their citizens. I think one of the bigger fears that municipal officials encountered throughout this whole process was that somehow the conduction of government would put their residents and staff at harm. So they tried to do that as sensitively as possible with a varying degree of ability to meet a number of standards, as Representative Hepler already pointed out. The bill creates a process that would allow the continuation for government operations under the existing conditions, as we're all ramping up right now for our own municipal elections. And it also provides the retroactive piece for municipalities who acted in good faith to carry out those elections and pass budgets in line with the CDC guidelines, as well as what was authorized by executive order. Those actions remain necessary, and the flexibility is also extremely important for municipalities. And while the governor worked in conjunction with MMA to provide executive orders to assist those communities with emergency changes that were necessary, the Attorney General's office believes that only the legislature has the authority to not withstand charter provisions. And this bill contains important retroactive provisions that would protect those municipalities who had conducted those elections via referendum rather than the show of hands under the existing emergency conditions. Additionally, the bill would permit the use of secret ballot for not only the budget process, but also for raising of the LD1 limit, which would permit the municipal treasurer to disperse money on the authority of the warrant drawn for that purpose, if it was seen to be signed individually by the majority of the municipal officers outside a public meeting. Let's see, there are a number of other provisions that I detailed in my testimony for that as well. The secret ballot and also the referendum, or also the postponing of the provisions of secret ballot is also another important provision. And to reschedule elections. And again, it adds that retroactive provision as identified as necessary by the AG's office. It's worth noting that MMA did receive some member feedback that this committee may or may not want to consider. Small municipalities that operate on a calendar year basis indicated that the expiration date of this bill comes at a time when they're in full swing preparing for their local elections. So for instance, Mercer's annual town meeting is usually the first Saturday in March. And this year that municipal election was in March, but the community held off the annual meeting until April. Those communities have some concern that about what January may or may not look like with regard to the pandemic. And they're suggesting that the committee might want to think about extending that until January 15th, 2022, or until March 31st of 2022 to accommodate those calendar year communities. And I think with that, it's probably just best if I delve into any questions that you may have about the mechanisms described in the bill.
Excuse me, my dog was barking in the background. I put myself on mute. Representative Tool, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a lot of questions, but I think some for today. To that last point, Representative Hepler reached out to me before this bill came forward. And I had suggested to her at the time that maybe it would be appropriate to extend it to June of next year as opposed to whatever. I wondered first if you had any thoughts on that, and I do have others too.
We did have clear member feedback from calendar year communities that they were concerned about that. Some calendar year communities start in January, others start in February. So I think if the committee felt as though June were appropriate, we would certainly, be in support of that. We do have fiscal year communities as well, but that may assist.
Yes, and that's kind of where I was thinking. Now, another question I had, and this is one I also raised with Representative Hepler in email, the provision, some of the remote meeting provisions in this. There are also, and I know you're aware of this, there are also 2 remote meeting bills that, albeit they're different, but they're similar, affecting municipalities that are over in judiciary. And I'm wondering if you would consider either taking this out or dealing with that issue in another way, because there are 2 other bills and we want to make sure they don't conflict or that they're not at odds.
I think the key piece in this particular bill, rather than the remote meeting bills going forward, is that it provides the retroactive support for the municipalities that did conduct remote meetings during the pandemic piece. And
so this would just be retroactive and not deal with anything going forward. That's your intent.
Correct.
Okay, that clears a lot of that up. And I do think for the work session, when we get to do this, because there are 15 different moving pieces in this, I think it would be very helpful if you would be with us to help our analysts walk through each of those individually and possibly have a series of straw votes on each of them, not because this could easily get out of hand and take multiple work sessions and unintentionally wind up being carried over to next year when the need is to get this taken care of before that. So is that something you could be willing to do?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you very much, Representative Toole. Representative Greenwood, did you get your question answered?
I'll save it. I'll defer the rest of that question to the work session.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any other questions for Rebecca Graham from MMA at present? There being none, thank you, ma'am, for being here.
Thank you.
I know you'll be back later. We also have Victoria Wallach from Maine School Management Association. Ms. Wallach, welcome back to state and local government.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Senator Rosen, Representative Matlack, and members of the State and Local Government Committee. I am Victoria Wallach. I'm Communications and Government Relations Director for Maine School Management and Maine School Boards Association. And we are in support of LD 1274. School leaders support the bill because it allows us to get necessary school budgets passed under still existing COVID restrictions and ultimately commit property taxes necessary for funding education. Budget meetings were held in February for March town meetings, with the next wave coming May for June approval. There's a desire in our communities to turn back to normal, whatever that turns out to be, around the budget approval process. Communities are getting creative around holding their town meetings and did last year, so people can come together in person and still be socially distanced. My town, for example, of Mount Vernon, held its meeting last year outside in fire department tents. The plans are now moving forward for the next round of June town meetings and elections. LD 1274, we believe, provides flexibility built around the language, as you mentioned, in Governor Mills' executive order on the same topic. And I need to say that Maine Municipal, my associations, and the governor's office all worked together through the last year to make sure we could get what we needed to get done for schools, and we appreciate everyone's support. We support this bill because it provides a safe an effective process to allow our school budgets to move forward in anticipation of a new school year in the fall, when I will say to you, we all hope to be back in person in the fall in school districts. So keep your fingers crossed. And as I mentioned, I just want to help or thank everyone who helped us through the last year. We were, Maine Municipal and I, and Kate Dufour, I want to give a shout out. We worked together pretty continuously through the thick of it. So thank you, and we are happy to support their bill.
Thank you very much. Representative Toole, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Vicki, for presenting this testimony today. A question that I had forgotten to ask Ms. Graham, and I know it affects school boards as well, the signature collecting process to get on the ballot. That is addressed in this bill. That's also addressed in this bill. Could you talk a little bit about why you feel that is necessary, and whether it could impact candidate races going forward?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it could, and it was helpful the past year. So I would have to look, and I can get it for the work session. As you know, Representative, school boards aren't all on a common date to go get reelected, which makes it a little crazy out there. So I'll look and see for the work session, but I'm sure it will help us because, like I said, for many districts, it's at different times of the year.
And I asked that because last year during the pandemic, I had a town that had serious issues getting candidates to run for offices because they couldn't get people were unwilling to go door to door to collect signatures, and that whole thing created a whole situation. So I know that's addressed in this bill, and I know Ms. Graham and yourself have been working on it, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Toole. Do we have any further questions for Ms. Wallach? There being none, thank you, ma'am, for being here with us again.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the work session, probably. Yes. Thank you. Now we have Sue Look from the town of Raymond. Ms. Look, welcome to State and Local Government.
Thank you, Representative Matlack and distinguished members of the State and Local Government Committee. I am Sue Look from the town of Raymond. I'm also a member of the MTCCA Legislative Policy Committee. And we would like to respectfully request that you support this bill. It's really codifying for the next year and with the sunset clause to continue as we did through COVID. And as a clerk that holds town meeting, annual town meetings and goes through the nomination process and the petitions and all of that, I can say that the key word that you've heard already, and I'll repeat, of flexibility, has been very welcome and necessary during these interesting times that we're going through. As Representative Toole just spoke to, the nomination papers and trying to get signatures, we've been able to do more with emailing and faxing documents and being able to get documents in people's hands through drop off and whatnot, as opposed to personally standing there and handing them a piece of paper. And as long as I get an original signature in my office that I can verify, then that works for the candidates to get them on the ballot. So that level of flexibility, as well as being able to do both the warrant articles via secret ballot and not need to come together during this time, the goal being to get back to open town meeting so people can have that interchange. But in the meantime, when even the voters that want to do that are concerned about the health risk of getting together in groups, to have this level of flexibility is absolutely wonderful. So as a committee and as a town clerk, we do recommend, and I do recommend and respectfully request that you support this with us.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Ms. Look? There being none, thank you, ma'am, for being here today. We really appreciate your comments. Representative Toole had asked for information for the work session. Representative Greenwood, did you need something, or we all set? You'll ask questions then? Any other questions, any other materials for Lynn? Thank you very much. We'll close this public hearing and we will move on to a second public hearing. Is Representative Pickett with us?
He is.
Wonderful. Get my notes. Good morning, Representative Pickett. Welcome to State and Local Government.
Good morning.
If you could introduce yourself and then present your materials, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will do that. Senator Baldacci, Representative Matlack, distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. I am State Representative Dick Pickett. I represent House District 116 in the Western Mountains of Oxford County. I'm here today to introduce LD 1065, an act to clarify the qualifications and oversight of sheriffs. As outlined in the bill, this bill requires a candidate for sheriff or someone serving as sheriff to have met and continue to meet any statutory requirements of pre-service, basic, or in-service law enforcement training required for certification, continued certification as a law enforcement officer. It also provides that any person who served as a full-time law enforcement officer employed by a state agency, including the University of Maine system, on or before July 1st, 1990, or is serving in the office of sheriff on June 26, 2021, or who served prior to that date is deemed to meet the minimum qualifications of subsection 3. Title 25, Chapter 341 offers 2 levels of accountability. The Board of Trustees at the Maine Criminal Justice Academy is comprised with the highest level of professionals in the state, including members of the Governor's Cabinet, the Attorney General's Office, and high-level law enforcement stakeholders, who all serve as gubernatorial appointees. The board is charged with many duties and responsibilities, including certification of criminal justice executives. As used in this subsection, criminal justice executives means police chiefs, sheriffs, and persons directly below the police chief or sheriffs in line of command. Secondly, also in the same subsection, revocation or suspension of certification, which means the board has authority to take disciplinary action concerning the certificate issued by the board, including but not limited to suspension or revocation. Maine sheriffs are held accountable to their position by their county commissioners and the members of the Maine Criminal Justice Academy Board of Trustees, which include the Commissioner of Public Safety and the Commissioner of Department of Corrections and the Attorney General. My entire 40-year career in law enforcement was spent first with the Maine State Police and then as the police chief in the town I reside in, which is Dixfield. I introduced this legislation because I have such a strong desire to codify into law the basic qualifications any person wishing to put themselves forward as a candidate for high sheriff. When Maine people enter a voting place, they must be 100% certain that any candidate on the ballot is qualified by education, training, past experience, or a combination thereof to be a sheriff. This bill clearly defines the qualifications which must be met to be appointed to the office of sheriff, to be a candidate for election to the office of sheriff, or serve as sheriff of any county in the state. The bill also clearly defines the proper continuing and ongoing oversight responsibility that the public deserves when monitoring a person serving in the capacity of sheriff and where this responsibility lies. I've met and discussed this bill with the director of the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, the chairman of the Academy Board of Trustees, President Troy Morton, and members of the Maine Sheriff's Association and others. They believe, as I do, that this clarity in legislation is long overdue. I'm proud to say that a representative from the Maine Sheriff's Association will be testifying in support of LD 1065 this morning. Thank you for your careful consideration of this very important measure, and I would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Excuse me, the dog was barking again. Thank you, Representative Pickett. Representative Tool, you have a question? You're on mute, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Pickett, both for your presentation of this bill and for your 40 years of law enforcement service. You can't say that enough for anyone in that field. So, but with that, in presenting this bill, do you have any concerns or thoughts on recruitment for people to run for sheriff or what have you? Because I know there's a law enforcement shortage, and as well intended as this is, I wonder if you want to weigh in on whether it will impact folks running for office or ability to run for office or such.
I would say at this point, Representative Toole, and thank you for your kind words, that a person that gets into law enforcement in any kind of law enforcement and wants to become a law enforcement officer is what my old colonel used to say, Colonel Alan Weeks in the state police, and they are different breed of cat. We realize that we're held to a higher standard, and we take that, we welcome that. We want to be transparent in what we do. When a law enforcement officer does something that is wrong and they have to be held accountable for it, when they do something that brings their badge and pulls that through the dirt, it pulls every badge out here and through the dirt with it. So I don't think it's going to have, this bill here is going to have any real reflection on whether or not somebody decides to run for sheriff. When you're a law enforcement officer, you have that in the blood. And if that's the desire you have to run for sheriff, I believe you'll run a good campaign and do your best to get into a position where you can do what's best for your county and for the people of the state.
I thank you for that. And the only reason I bring it up is because I know in the past when similar bills around qualifications have arisen, that has been a concern that's been aired. So I wanted you to have the opportunity to respond to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions for Representative Pickett? Representative Greenwood?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question for the good representative from Dixfield, Representative Pickett. I noticed in the language, it's basically the office of sheriff. It used to be law enforcement or jail administration. It looks like your bill is going to basically say that a jail administrator, who doesn't have the law enforcement side of it, can't run for sheriff. Is that what I'm looking at?
Thank you for the question, Representative Greenwood. Yes, that was removed, and I thought about that long and hard, but I have talked with the people who I mentioned in my testimony, and I feel very strongly that even though a sheriff is responsible for the corrections side as well as the law enforcement side of their when they take office, in order to enforce the laws of this state, you need to be somebody who is well versed in them. You need to have the experience and the certificate to be able to do that. And I feel that is the certificate that needs to be held by a person before they're able to run for the office of sheriff.
Thank you very much. Are there other questions? I have a couple of questions, sir. With regard to oversight of sheriffs, is that only with regard to their qualifications? I read through the bill and I didn't see where you addressed any oversight of the sheriff. Could you explain what that is?
Yeah, the oversight is that they are held responsible by, when you have your certificate, there's certain duties and powers that the board of trustees of the Maine Criminal Justice Academy have, and if violations along the line come up or anything about that, then they're held responsible, and there's oversight by the board. But they also are the county commissioners. They also have oversight over the sheriff as well to a certain degree. So that's the two that, and I think Sheriff Morton can probably explain that in more detail to you if when he testifies a little more clearly. But that's the oversight I was talking about. The county commissioners of whom they work in the county, and the Board of Trustees, which oversees and is in charge of their, because without their credentials, ma'am, if we don't have your credentials, if they're taken from you or they're revocated from you, then you don't have the opportunity to be in the field of law enforcement.
Okay, the other one is with regard to the date that you put in there, July 1st, 1990. So if somebody's qualifications predate 30 years ago, they're still qualified today to run for sheriff. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the reason that was put in there is because we wanted to take and grandfather anybody that it may still be serving in the position of sheriff right at this time, and so that's why that clause was put in there. Moving forward, obviously, all the qualifications would be exactly as they listed in the bill, but that we wanted to make sure that if there is a sheriff out here right now that has been in service for a long time, that they are grandfathered under this bill.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions for Representative Pickett? Being none, thank you very much for coming by this morning, sir. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. And if I could just say, I worked in your committee for 4 years, state and local. Will was Representative Toole and Representative Greenwood were there at that time, and I would have loved to come bearing gifts today of good, some kind of enjoyment for you for the day. And if we ever get back into the State House working in our committee rooms, I will gladly stop off someday and bring a treat for you.
Thank you very much. I would remind Representative Greenwood that what he just did is not appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Next up is Senator Troy Morton. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
As much as I appreciate the credentials, I'm a sheriff, not the senator.
Sorry about that, Sheriff.
That's okay. That's a tough job as well. So Representative Matlack and esteemed members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local, my name is Troy Morton. I am the Sheriff of Penobscot County and President of the Maine Sheriff's Association. Maine Sheriffs had the privilege of working closely with Representative Pickett as he crafted LD 1065, an act to clarify the qualifications and oversight of sheriffs. Maine Sheriffs unanimously support this bill with the hope that we can offer some minor language clarification. Maine Sheriffs have come under a lot of scrutiny over the past few years. Unethical and unacceptable behavior by a former sheriff tarnished all of our offices. Restoring the integrity and the honor of the office of sheriffs is an objective we cannot ignore. Representative Pickett, a former law enforcement officer himself, recognized a shortfall in the current statute regarding qualifications for sheriffs. By requiring a sheriff to meet law enforcement standards set forth in Title 30A on an annual basis, he has provided Maine Sheriffs with another tool to ensure that we are the best equipped to meet the needs of the citizens we serve and protect. While we unanimously support the bill, we express some concern regarding a previous law enforcement officer who returns to the field by running for sheriff. We proposed a language that would allow that a new sheriff have 1 year to restore his full credentials or certifications. And so we put that in section 4 that would say within 1 year of taking office and then or on annual basis must meet the statutory requirements as outlined in the statute. We applaud Representative Pickett for recognizing and embracing an opportunity to improve the office of sheriff. We urge members of this committee to please vote ought to pass with our amendment. We appreciate your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Sheriff Morton. I believe Representative Toole has a question or two for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sheriff, for your presentation today. A point that Representative Greenwood brought up earlier about jail administrators and other law enforcement. I know in the past when this was considered, I believe there was a point of discussion around that. So could you weigh in on that and whether you feel that should be the case going forward with this legislation, or how we should address that whole issue and such? Yes.
Thank you, Representative. Great question. I will recognize, if you don't mind, just before I answer that, is that these standards and the standards that we currently have in place are the highest standards for any law enforcement officer in the state. And noted that we're recognized in Article 10 of the Maine Constitution with the Maine Sheriff position, that we willfully take those higher standards and want to make sure that we meet them. Myself, I happen to be dual certified, so there are several sheriffs that are actually dual certified in corrections certification and law enforcement. We understand Representative Pickett's a point about making this so that it's driven by law enforcement, and we support that mentality. There are many that come into this career field. I can't remember if it was you or Representative Greenwood that brought up, shortages in law enforcement. This would certainly open the door a little bit so that folks that worked in different types of law enforcement would have the ability to run for sheriff in the future. The point that we made on clarification on why we want them to have a year to make up their certification. An example would be if a municipal police officer, police chief retired and may have been out of service for a year or so, their credentials are still there, but would have timed out because they didn't, unless they continued education to keep them in place. So what we would ask is that somebody have a year to get those credentials in order. There's some of those standards are for new officers as well. When you bring on a new officer, you must send them to the academy within a year. So that's kind of why we use that as the timeline.
Well, thank you for that. So that would apply generally going forward. So say a jail administrator did want to run for sheriff, they would have a year to get certified to get their other certification. Is that correct, or am I missing something there?
Nope, that's right. If I suppose if somebody was a jail administrator or somebody who'd worked in corrections for many years, wanted to run for the office of sheriff and was elected, blessed that opportunity, that they would have a year to go to the academy and get their law enforcement credential.
I got you. I think that could be a good, I think that has some possibilities with it. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there further questions for the sheriff? Thank you very much. Well, maybe I'll ask this question. I did notice that it just caught my eye about the July 1990 as being anything before that date was still acceptable. I wonder how quickly somebody whose last experience was June of 1990 would be able to come into compliance with the requirements of that we have now for sheriffs.
Good question. I think I have the answer. I've actually been in this for 32 years. I haven't caught Representative Pickett's long tenure, but I'm getting there. I recall, Representative, this language may be in there. There were several officers back in the early 90s that were part of the state's University of Maine system, law enforcement. And they were grandfathered back then and did not have to attend the full academy training as police officers back in the 90s. And I believe because they're still able to have that language has been carried forward, always allowing their certification to remain as a prior certification. I believe that's why that language is still there.
So if those folks who were grandfathered wish to run for sheriff, their qualifications, which aren't qualifications, would still qualify them to be sheriff?
So I think what would happen there, ma'am, is they would have the ability to run because they had been certified, but now they have to go back and do their recertification. No, honestly, no different than one person that's out 1 year or 25 years.
Okay.
That person comes back, they have to go through XYZ training to get recertified. So this is just saying that even to start, you've had to have a certification somewhere along the way before you ever run for the office.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any further questions for Sheriff Morton? Thank you very much, sir, for coming by.
Thank you.
I believe the next person we have to speak with us is Ms. Graham from Maine Municipal. Welcome back.
Thank you, Representative Matlack, Senator Rosen, and distinguished members of the state and local
Government Committee. My name is still Rebecca Graham, and I am still representing Maine Municipal Association, who supports this bill for all of the reasons that the good sheriff and Representative Pickett have already outlined. So rather than reiterating a lot of those issues, I'll just point to what is required of municipal police leadership currently and why this parity is really important. Municipal police officers must complete 20 hours of training on subject matter that's been identified on a 2-year basis by the Maine Criminal Justice Academy in conjunction with the Maine Chiefs of Police, of which the sheriffs serve with. Generally, these are centered around enforcement shifts. And then additionally, they need to do another 20 hours of elected training in the subject area of an officer's choosing and a chief's approval. Those training topics cover implicit bias, new law updates, critical thinking, approaches to substance use disorder, managing mental health crisis, managing where investigation trends are showing some gaps in knowledge. And those requirements apply to municipal police as well as municipal police chiefs. In addition to the annual law enforcement training requirements, municipal police chiefs must complete an additional level of training in supervision to maintain their executive certificates. So they are doing all of the exact same things that their officers are doing and then some. And local law enforcement leadership, whether it's elected or not, must carry that same professionalism for their staff and are also overseeing multi-million-dollar budgets. It's really important that they stay up to date with emerging trends, but also tools to help them with their job. Elected sheriffs also set enforcement priorities for their agency, but also the tone and how their deputies approach their duties. So this committee will be aware of the impact when that goes awry. And additionally, municipal police chiefs can be removed from their position in their community. And those same taxpayers pay for county law enforcement, but they don't really have any standing to shape in county enforcement priorities or oust bad leadership. So it's really vital that that set of skills is enshrined within those individuals that run for this office. So we deeply appreciate that as a mechanism as well to assure voters that they are getting the best candidate for the job. And the existing sheriffs are already respected police leaders and carrying out this sacred duty. And most of them already, I believe, meet all of these requirements. So we don't think it's going to be a heavy lift for them. Officials would like to propose amending the final section of the bill, the section 230A, MSRA 371B, subsection 4, to read to include employed by a state agency or municipal police department in recognition that full-time municipal police already also meet those standards in the same manner that state and university and law enforcement would as well. With or without that amendment, officials do wholeheartedly support LD 1065 as a step forward towards bringing that parity and expectations, standards, and expertise across all police leadership in the state of Maine.
Thank you, ma'am. Representative Toole, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would ask Ms. Graham if she and Sheriff Morton could get together with our analyst before we vote on this and come out with a proposed amendment for the committee's consideration. I think that would save a lot of time at work session.
With regard to municipal sheriffs?
With regard to
municipal police chiefs?
Yes, with regard to the issues that each of them had seen about, that each of them raised during their comments. I know each had small tweaks, and I just think if they get together with our analyst, we can have all of that agreed to up front so that it's a committee discussion at that point, and we're getting one step ahead of the game, so to speak, or keeping things moving.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for Ms. Graham at this point? There being none, thank you very much. I appreciate the comments. I think we will close the public hearing on this bill, and we will take up our third bill this morning, which is 1300. And that is, let me see. Excuse me. That is Representative Topeka's bill. An act to require county governments to coordinate with municipalities to create plans to address homelessness. Is the representative here? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Senator Baldacci, Representative Matlack, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on State and Local Government. I am Representative Laura Supika, and I represent House District 126, which includes a portion of Bangor. I am here today to present LD 1300, an act to require county governments to coordinate with municipalities to create plans to address homelessness. Every summer, my region sees a rise in folks experiencing homelessness. There are several reasons for this influx during normal times, but last year the pandemic greatly exacerbated this situation. In late winter, early spring of last year, we already had our usual high numbers of people experiencing homelessness occupying public spaces. During this time, a woman named Valerie, who was experiencing homelessness, was placed in a cab at the Brewer Hannaford and sent to the Bangor waterfront. We have construction going on next to the waterfront, so a large camp of people were living there and taking shelter under an overpass. The conditions were not great. The cab pulled up some way down the street and Valerie exited. Her body was found a day later. She had died from exposure, never making it down the path to the tents. My heart grieves for Valerie. She came from Lincoln, and she is dearly missed by friends and family. Over the summer, the population of folks experiencing homelessness ballooned. My city does not have the resources to care for everyone, so people ended up sleeping outside in unsafe conditions, and failure to address this issue is grossly inhumane. That is why I'm here today to present to you a plan to give towns the support and guidance they need to begin to address homelessness and housing insecurity. LD 1300 requires the county commissioners of each county, in consultation and coordination with the statewide homeless council, regional homeless councils, and the municipalities in the county, to develop and implement a plan with protocols to address homelessness within the county. Not all towns have the same services, but we can start to bridge that divide with our county governments by having counties work directly with their municipalities to examine the needs specific to their region. They can then take stock and better utilize the resources that do exist, as well as identify gaps specific to those regions. The housing needs that Cumberland County has are significantly different from the needs of Piscataquis County, which has seen a spike in multi-generational homelessness in the past year. However, to simply direct the counties to do this work without guidance from the state would be ineffective and ultimately damaging. We have taken great steps to address these issues with our own regional homeless councils. We do not want to have 16 independent entities working in silos and possibly undoing roads that have been laid. By integrating with the regional councils, our counties become a bridge for our small rural towns who often do not have enough staff or resources to mount an adequate response. This bill provides an opportunity to triage lists for our towns and create as a platform to shine a light on our community's housing needs. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present this bill today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have any questions for the good representative this morning? There being none, thank you very much for your time. I'll move on to alphabetically to Cullen Ryan. Mr. Ryan, welcome to the State and Local Government.
Thank you very much, Representative Matlack and Senator Baldacci and members of the State and Local Governments Committee. My name is Cullen Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of Community Housing of Maine. We create supportive housing for homeless and special needs populations all across the state. We collaborate with a lot of service providers to do this. We house about 1,100 people. I serve on the statewide homeless council and all the regional homeless councils, and I'm service president of the Maine Continuum of Care Board of Directors. I've been in this field for 34 years, doing all sorts of different things. And I'm testifying on behalf of CHOM in support of LD 1300. And what this would do is to essentially allow all of us to work together in a streamlined fashion. And it may appear like this bill would lead to a number of diversion plans. That was actually my initial worry, but in consult with the sponsor, I've come to believe that this bill would actually stress that local efforts are aligned with the state plan and prevent homelessness and other efforts by the statewide homeless council and the regional homeless councils, so that we don't have situations happening as was just described, which is horrific. One of the biggest obstacles to ending homelessness is silos, and we see a lot of those. And this bill works to keep localities from acting in a siloed manner, but it also nudges their involvement in order for it to be in sync with statewide strategies. In essence, it will take everyone working together to have Maine end and prevent homelessness. No part of the state, no one organization, nobody can do it alone, but we can all do it together if we work well and in sync. So this will challenge localities to actively work together with the state to do their part, who would help solve regional and local differences in the approach to end homelessness, and that's a very good thing. As you know, homelessness is a major health crisis, and affordable housing is healthcare. Investing in housing stability for Maine people creates a foundation to help Mainers rebuild better from the pandemic. We lacked resources before the pandemic, but we're seeing increased demand, including record numbers of people outside and numbers of people in hotels that we've never seen before, many hundreds of people. And so this bill is part of a continuum of legislation that addresses the housing needs in Maine, from access to safe emergency housing and supportive services to rental assistance and housing production. These bills work in sync with each other to end and prevent homelessness. Please support LD 1300 so we can all work together to prevent homelessness in Maine. I'm also happy to take a moment and explain what the homeless councils are and what is in place to tie the state together in efforts to end and prevent homelessness. Thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. I saw that comment in your testimony earlier. I would be interested in knowing about the statewide councils. There are 3 around the state. Is that what I remember, or there are a number of them that work together?
Yes, there are 3 regional homeless councils, and they tie into the statewide homeless council. This was created in 2004 and 2005. And essentially the idea was that we start to bring our regions together to focus on what needs to happen and to really dial into local and specific. And a statewide council that includes members of the regional homeless councils, includes the director of Maine State Housing Authority, commissioner of DHHS, the commissioner of corrections, and have all these people together working together to develop plans to end homelessness. So it's been a wonderful change, and it's helped to reduce some silos, but we still have work to go, and we're actually working to devise a plan to create local service hubs and 9 regions in the state, 9 areas in the state, service areas that will really help us to get to the local areas and make sure that the array of services reach people equitably, no matter where they are in the state. And so that's a good thing. There's also a whole continuum of care that has been in existence since the late 1980s per HUD, and that allows the backbone of funding that comes into Maine to be contemplated and distributed according to what people on the ground think makes the most sense.
Thank you very much for that information.
Yes.
Thank you. Representative Dorr, I believe you were being called elsewhere. You're welcome. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. Next, we hear from Mallory Shaughnessy.
Good morning, Representative Matlack, and it looks like Senator Baldacci is not with you right now, but esteemed members of the Joint Committee on State and Local Government. My name is Mallory Shaughnessy. I'm a resident of Westbrook and the Executive Director of the Alliance for Addiction and Mental Health Services, and I'm here today to speak in support of LD 1300. I haven't been in front of this committee in a very long time, since I was a county commissioner, which was quite a while ago. So it's kind of nice to be before you. I spend all my time in health and human services and in criminal justice. But LD 1300 would require, as you've heard, the county commissioners in each county, in consultation and coordination with this statewide homeless council and the regional ones, to develop and establish protocols and implement plans to address homelessness within their counties. And as both the former Cumberland County Commissioner and somebody very concerned about mental health and recovery, I wholeheartedly support this legislation. There is clearly a link between psychiatric disorders and being homeless, but disentangling the nature of that relationship is complicated. Although estimates vary, studies looking at mental illness in persons who are homeless have generally found a high prevalence of mental disorders. Mental illness has preceded homelessness in about 2/3 of the cases, but homelessness itself, in turn, has been associated with poor mental health outcomes and exacerbates certain types of disorders. For example, findings indicate that homelessness is related to higher levels of psychiatric distress and lower levels of recovery from serious mental illness. So people without homes with mental illness are also, as you've been hearing too, highly vulnerable and vulnerable to violence. The reported lifetime incidence of 74% to 87% of violence being perpetrated against them. Clearly, this is an important issue and one that should be addressed on the local level due to the varied needs across the state, but also connected to a statewide plan, as Colin made reference to. But homelessness could be drastically reduced if people with severe mental illness were able to access supportive housing, as well as other necessary community supports. In other states across the nation, counties play a much larger role in both addressing the needs of those with mental illness and substance use disorder, as well as investing in housing and other methods to address the problems of homelessness. And Maine should seriously be looking at ways that our counties could be more involved in supporting all of these efforts. According to the National Association of Counties, each year counties invest nearly $11 billion on housing and community development, with local governments playing a key role in housing affordability, community planning, land use, and zoning. Counties also invest heavily elsewhere in support of housing services for individuals with disabilities, veterans, and those experiencing homelessness. I included a few examples from across the country, some articles of innovative programs and projects at the county level to address these issues. And there's even an affordable housing toolkit for counties that has a lot of very good information in it. I put a link in my testimony. And in Maine, there are many examples of this happening right now. In Cumberland County, you can see the Community Development Office has a lot of work that it is doing currently with their Community Development Block Grant monies to invest in a home partnership program and a bunch of other things. But right now, it is a perfect moment in time to invest in this work, with the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 about to infuse millions and millions of dollars into our counties, cities, and towns across Maine. Counties will be receiving anywhere from $3 million to upwards of $57 million in May. And cities and towns will be receiving anywhere from a few thousand to nearly $60 million each. When we had the last big infusion of stimulus dollars like this from the federal government with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, as a county commissioner, I was able to be involved firsthand and witness how we expanded Cumberland County's collaboration with local entities and communities and put those stimulus dollars into preventing homelessness with some rapid rehousing projects. And I am attaching a study, a kind of a case study of that effort and how the success of that effort attached with a link in my testimony. And I've also added, I think, a link to the full study as well, a homelessness prevention study prepared by HUD in August of 2015. But as a former county commissioner, as the executive director of the Alliance, and as a mother of an adult son with mental health challenges, I urge you to give this legislation a unanimous ought to pass vote. And I'd be happy to get more information for you or answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, Ms.
And thank you to Representative Supika for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Ms. Shaughnessy. Do we have any questions for Ms. Shaughnessy this morning? There being none, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Rebecca Graham from Maine Municipal, welcome back.
Thank you, Representative Matlack, Senator Rosen, and distinguished members of the State and Local Government Committee. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I am providing testimony in support of LD 1300 at the direction of our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. Officials on our policy committee recognize that service center communities are struggling against the tide of homelessness and the complex needs of the indigent Maine residents. And while all communities have a requirement to protect and assist these vulnerable individuals, most communities lack housing and the expert resources that are necessary to address a number of complex related healthcare and mental health issues that are also associated with homelessness. As a result, communities with more specialized services draw residents from other communities to access those services. LD 1300 recognizes that county assessment touches all communities and could play a role in funding a more regionalized approach to this system, and it would not only support individuals more comprehensively, but also make sure that communities all have skin in the obligatory services that they are directed to provide under the general assistance laws. Additionally, there may need to be an enabling mechanism that would be included in the final bill that would allow the existing statutory reimbursement for those GA services to the communities that are paying for them if they choose to pay through this particular mechanism. That said, however, officials also recognize that not all counties are created equal and suggest that there is a degree of flexibility in how that coordination is managed and that might need to be required. Also, an oversight mechanism for this program at the county level from either a broader set of municipal officials and residents in that county might also want to be included in the final bill. Additionally, as the committee will be very well aware, this does expand the obligatory services on a local unit of government, and thus the mandate preamble would be required to be added. Municipal officials ask, however, that if you see the expansion of that service as important enough to vote out of committee, that you also convince your legislative colleagues to commit to fully funding the administrative burden and staffing requirements that this would place on our county partners at the 90% level required by the Constitution. Not only is that the right thing to do to address this statewide issue, but it will reduce the burden on the already stretched county budgets and allow the taxpayer contributions to these services to be utilized fully to meet the bill's suggested goals and not pay for a state-created local administration piece of that with those funds. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Other questions for Ms. Graham at this point? There being none, thank you very much for coming by and spending the morning with us. We will now call the public hearings to a conclusion. We do have one work session coming up, but I guess I should mention that I did earlier chide Representative Greenwood, and I will explain what that was. He held up a mug intentionally to make a political point, and having props in the committee is unacceptable. So that is why I chided him for raising his mug in salute to with a political saying on the side of it to make a political point. So thank you. So we will move along to a work session. We have a bill that was referred to this committee that is very, very similar to a bill that was referred to the Labor Committee. So we will open a work session this morning on this bill, and we will send it to Labor and Housing. Lynn, do we need a motion to go into work session?
Yes. You do.
Moved. Representative Toole has made the motion. Is there a second for moving in?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland. This bill is Representative McCrae's bill on tiny houses or small on our on small houses in residential areas. Lynn, could you explain the bill a little bit? Do you have that with you?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this bill is about tiny houses, or otherwise known as accessory dwelling units. I believe we may have had, state and local may have had a bill similar to this last session. There is a similar bill 1312, which Representative McCrae mentioned, which also has to do with accessory dwelling units. It was tagged for SLG, but it was referred to Labor and Housing on March 30th. So they're both very similar. They cross the kind of divide between state and local being municipality overview, and the fact that this is housing, so it also is within housing's jurisdiction. But there is another bill, very, very similar, already referred to Labor and Housing.
Thank you. Representative Tool,
I would make a motion, we refer this to Labor and Housing.
thank you. Do we have a second? Representative Downs, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of recommending this bill to Labor and Housing? There being none, Cheryl, can you call the roll for us, please?
I will. LD 1530, Representative Randall Greenwood.
Yes.
Representative Randall Greenwood, yes. Senator Sean Paulus, Representative Sean Paulus, absent. Representative Francis Head.
Yes.
Representative Francis Head, yes. Representative William Toole.
Yes.
Representative William Toole, yes. Representative Mark Bryant.
Yes.
Representative Mark Bryant, yes. Representative Ann Matlack.
Yes.
Representative Ann Matlack, yes. Senator Joseph Baldacci, absent. Senator Kimberly Rosen.
Yes.
Senator Kimberly Rosen, yes. Senator Ned Claxton, absent. Representative Donna Dorr, absent. Representative Walter Reisman.
Yes.
Representative Walter Reisman, yes. Representative Kathy Downs.
Yes.
Representative Kathy Downs, yes. Representative Lynn Copeland.
Yes.
Representative Lynn Copeland, yes. 9 yes, 4 absent.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Can I have a motion to close the work session on this bill?
So moved.
There we go, several. Thank you very much. So we have now closed the work session today. Lynn, do we have any other business for this morning?
Actually, Madam Chair, yes, Representative Toole asked for an update on the statistics on state and local. So
Yes.
I do have some information on that. And I'm just going to shoot the numbers at you. This is as of Sunday, but I don't think it's changed too much. So we're still expecting about 13 more bills to be referred to the committee, which would give us an anticipated load of about 91 total bills. You've reported out 8. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about the special session only. So the first session you did some work. This is special session only. You have heard but not voted on 35. There are 23 left to be advertised, but don't worry, they are on the schedule. The percentage is you have voted or reported out 14%, and you have referred or reported out 10%. So as you know, you're supposed to be at 60% or so, but this is an unusual session, and we actually are in a special session, not the first session. So in my view, you are not doing you are middle of the road as far as all the other committees go. You're not at the lead and you're not at the bottom of the barrel. So,
oh, thank goodness for being average.
You're being, yes.
Okay, thank you. We will work on our numbers. We do have quite a few bills to be heard next week. We have quite a, even taking into account that we do have a holiday on Monday. We have public hearings. We have, and Representative Bryant's assistant agrees. We have public hearings and work sessions, and we're going to endeavor to catch up as soon as possible. I think this is doable, and I think that we'll just refer going forward. Any bills that we take up, we need to keep in mind that we need to clear our work on those bills as expeditiously as possible. So I thank you all for your very hard work, and I will see you again on Wednesday. Representative Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would agree with that. I'm a high achiever, so I kind of find 14% a little hard to swallow, but I think we can get there with everybody's cooperation, and making sure we know where we're at with bills and moving them just along just as quick as we can. So we're all doing right by the sponsors and the bill. So
Okay,
it's going to be a long couple of 3 weeks, but we'll get through it.
we will indeed. And we are endeavoring to hold just public hearings on Fridays. So if you need to miss a Friday, if you could check in at 9 o'clock. So you ensure that we have a quorum, and then you can catch up on any bills that you might have missed on YouTube. So that when the work sessions come around, you will have the materials that we all have to make decisions on these bills going forward. So I appreciate all your work, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great weekend.
Have a
Representative,
great long weekend.
Yes.
your assistant is one handsome young man.
He has been very patient.
Yes, he is very patient. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Have a great long weekend, 3 days. Senator Rosen, I love your dog.
Oh,
He's
thank you.
just the best. Oh, my
Thank you.
word. He